Hello, class. So I am here with Kyle Watson, longtime friend and coworker of mine. We are both GIS mapping geeks, I guess you could say.
Oh yeah.
We love data. We're very passionate about it. So just brief introduction. I've worked with Kyle over many, many years, and we've even done some cool mapping projects internationally together. I've been to the Taj Mahal with you.
I have, yeah.
And so I love that Kyle took some time out of his day to show you all geographic information systems, data, and how that relates to business, which is as we wrap up this semester, we're trying to pull all this together. And I want to show you some real world applications of demographics and data. So Kyle, I really appreciate you doing this. And Kyle works for a company that I've mentioned in the last couple of classes called ESRI. So go to esri.com and you'll learn all kinds of cool applications for whatever industry you're interested in. And Kyle, I appreciate this. So
You bet.
I think today we're going to focus on data mapping and how businesses use it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I graduated from Michigan State with a geography degree focused on GIS. I got into it just loving maps as a kid and found out you could make a living at that. So that's what I do. I work for Esri, the Environmental Systems Research Institute. We're based out of Redlands, California. Actually lived there for 11 years. I think Jason, you lived there briefly too, right? So
For a year, yeah. I've told the
yeah, so
story, I think, in my class, yeah.
our paths have crossed. And I've since moved back and I live back in Michigan. I live in the Grand Rapids area now and was flying back and forth before the pandemic. But it's a really neat job. We build software products. So the product that I work on is called Business Analyst. It's a product that combines socioeconomic and demographics, kind of from the census type of information with street data, so you can kind of understand who's around you, make better decisions. Organizations are using it like Meyer or Starbucks to map their customers, find out where they're living, find out more about where they can find new customers like them, and then really just to kind of benchmark their locations across their network and figure out um, which store is doing well, what can we learn about the demographics, how can we change the product mix, things like that. So I'm a product engineer, so we actually build the products. We focus on kind of understanding the technology, researching new methods or new trends that are out there, um, thinking about the user experience. So what the button should look like, what should happen when this dialog closes, how long should a user, we call them users, or people that use our software, how long should they be in the application before they reach an answer? Um, and yeah, so it's a really neat job. And what I was going to do with Jason here is actually show you some of the things that I just talked about.
Absolutely.
Pull up our application and then walk through a couple
And just
demonstrations.
one quick question. I should say that Esri is the industry leader, right? I mean, you're
Yes.
working with all kinds. You mentioned like a few like Meyer, but you're working with all kinds of companies. I
Yep.
mean, they're an international company for one, because many of the students probably don't. I just want to set the stage that Esri is like an industry leader in this space,
Yeah.
and
You can kind of think of it as like the Microsoft of mapping. When you think about
absolutely,
Microsoft, it's like this giant behemoth computer technology company. And
right,
that's kind of how we are in the GIS space or the mapping and technology space.
absolutely,
We have distributors that we call them, or kind of international flavors or versions, like the Esri UK or the Esri Sweden or Esri Australia, Esri India, all over the place. Um, and then we work with those often. We have to kind of bend our time zones to do that. So we're working with people from all over the world, which is really neat.
very cool.
Yeah,
All right, well, I
yeah,
will let you just dive right into what you want to show. I appreciate it.
cool. So let me try to share my screen here and get set up. Looking up at the top here. Cool. So what I have to share here is this is an application that I work on. It's a web-based application. So it kind of lives in the cloud, and it's called Business Analyst, or Business Analyst Web App. Um, it's called Business Analyst traditionally, but you can use it in any industry. So you can use it in the commercial market for insurance or finance, but you can also use it in forestry, um, saving turtles, whatever you'd want to do, as long as you have data to plug in, and then you can get analysis out of it. So just, I mean, you're probably familiar with using Google Maps or Bing Maps or something like that. It's a very similar type of interface. So you can actually use this product in any country around the globe, or most countries that we have data for. So if you wanted to do it in Botswana or Italy or the Netherlands, we have data for all over the world. You just switch your country and then off you go. Here we'll stick to the US. And then what I first wanted to do was create some maps. So I think we all know about creating maps. You think about cartography. How do I get from one place to the other? The kind of maps that we deal with are more analytical maps where you are focused on data and how can I see my data on a map? And data, a lot of times you're thinking about Excel spreadsheets. So really this program comes with about 15,000 or so variables, like from the census, population, spending, income, and you can view those on the map. So what we want to go do first here is really just come in and then and take a look at some of these variables and how we would do that. So here I can browse for all variables. I can look at them by categories. So we have, just to give you an idea, we have information on population, health, education. If I drilled into education, you can find out where are the areas that have the most people, 25 or over, that have graduated with a professional degree. And I can simply click on that. I can look at that as a count or a percent. So the percent of individuals with a degree within maybe a zip code or a county, and you can kind of drill and drill out. Here, I'll just do the sheer number in the educational attainment area, and I will click go. And what it's doing is it's looking at the content underneath, or that data, and it's mapping it. So from a very high level, we're looking at a state level. We're looking at the darker areas are going to have more professional degrees. But let's kind of zoom in and show how that can change. And as I do zoom in, you can see that I am gone from state and now I'm at the congressional district. Or actually, this is probably the county levels. And if I kind of zoom in a little bit more, I mentioned that I'm in the Grand Rapids area. The darker the areas are going to have more college degrees or more higher end college degrees. And as you kind of zoom in, a kind of a reoccurring trend is you might have the more urban areas that might have possible lower education, higher education, whereas you go out and maybe into the suburbs here, you have higher education. So if I clicked on one of these, I can learn more about them. I can even compare, run reports, or do infographics. So infographics are really cool. It's kind of like if you've ever looked at a USA Today and they're showing you the key indicators of what you need to know for a certain subject. So what I'm doing here is I'm clicking on a particular, I think it was a zip code, and then we're going to learn a little bit more about this. Of course, it's taking a while. So here's a recap of this particular census block group in the Grand Rapids area. So as you can see, our key facts here, we've got information on households. We can look at where we're at for Kent County, the United States, and how that compares to Michigan. So this area has a little bit larger average household than the state of Michigan, which is kind of neat. You can kind of zoom in and out of the map to see where you're at, and then kind of drill in to find a little bit more information. For example, this area here for per capita income, you can see where this compares in 2020 and then where it's trending for 2025. So now the per capita income for this particular block group, these folks are going to make about $56,000 a year, but we're forecasting that up to be about $65,000 a year, or $10,000 more in 5 years' time. So probably a growing area. It's probably an area that has high educational attainment. Lots of folks have higher end degrees or college degrees.
But so you can drill in anywhere in the country and just pull that data up at your fingertips. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. If I zoom back out, it's going to kind of it's nested, so it's going to know that at each individual zoom level, right, it's going to know that it optimized for speed and performance. But I can kind of go back into Chicago and I can kind of see the same type of things. And maybe I want to say, well, instead of looking at the population, graduate population, We can even come in and then look at, I can search for a keyword here, just like a Google search, and we can find out where are people watching television, and specifically the regular season NHL season, and the highest percentage of those in each area. And I can map that so you can see where those folks might be.
So Kyle,
And
completely unscripted, some of my
yeah,
students are hockey players.
oh, good. I've got that's a Red Wings hat up there, and I've got a Steve Eisenman bobblehead in the background. So
Nice.
lifelong hockey player, and
Absolutely.
I've got broken
I got to give a
collarbones
plug in for you for your hockey skills there. But
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. But if we wanted to take a look and see where are those high end areas around Chicago, they might be kind of out in the suburbs up here. I used to come and play kind of in the Winnetka area, Deerfield. I used to go to hockey tournaments. But so these are block groups up here, and this is just going to be where the highest concentrations of population that are most interested in hockey. And we get this data. This is through a third-party company that we work with that is all about television ratings and media preferences, and they take surveys of people. Maybe if you buy a product, you fill out a survey. So they kind of tabulate and model all this information, and it gets into the data. So, I mean, it's a really neat application in that sense to understand very quickly how can I get a view of my data, and then you can kind of play with it too. You can say, well, this is how there's different breakdowns of how the data is classified. Sometimes they call it kind of lying with numbers or lying with maps, where you can come in and say, well, I'd actually at the high end, this is at the 11 percentile here, I'd like to actually change this and then bring it up to 12%. You can see how the data kind of dynamically changes on you there. So you're actually looking for the very, very highest percentage of people that are watching hockey. And then you can kind of come in there, and then you could say, well, I'd like to focus my marketing efforts on Palatine, Arlington Heights, Buffalo Grove, out past the airport, where I know there's a lot of hockey rinks up there. So that's a little bit about creating maps with data. And one of the things that I was thinking about was how can you get a little bit more sophisticated than that? So let's kind of back out of here, and then instead of doing something that we just did called color coded maps, we want to do something that takes it a bit further with something we call smart map search. So let me go down that path. So this will open up a new workflow as part of my job or our job. Everything that you see on screen, we would need to make sure that it's well tested, well documented, that you can learn more about it, that the user experience is what it should be. All the little icons that you see, we'll help create those or work with our creative department to say, hey, we need an icon of a graduation hat, to symbolize that we're looking for education, or a credit card. So they'll come up with that. It's not the exact thing that I thought I would be doing when I was going into geography, but it's just part of the show to once you get into a career or a job.
It's amazing that it's not only a software company, but you're also helping businesses solve problems. I know some of the students that I have in both classes with my philosophy class, we just read an entire book from Satya, the CEO of Microsoft. Mm-hmm. And his stance on software and the impact companies have. But I just find it amazing that not only is Esri in like the consulting side and the data side helping businesses make better decisions, but they're very much a software company, as you said earlier, like a Bill Gates or a Microsoft, and those attention to details for the users. And just how they navigate the software and how usable it is. So I just wasn't planning on saying anything about that, but I wanted to call out for the students that they're not just Esri actually developed these tools that you're using. You're not just applying it as like a marketing company.
Yeah,
you are like the engine that other marketing companies use.
Yeah, that is a good point, Jason. Sometimes I say that because some folks want to get into GIS or geography, and they want to work on projects. They want to work on wetland management, or working within a company that's expanding businesses, and so they can work on those types of projects. And we are involved in those, but we build the software that folks work with. So I like to say that we do not save manatees here. We build tools and software capabilities, services for organizations and folks to save the manatees. So
yes, no, I love that you gave that example. And I honestly, I'm challenging many of my students to think ahead, a few years in the future, you're in a job and you'll potentially be using this analytical tool.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and being asked like, hey, we need to market this product. Where should we, or who would buy it? And so I just thought I'd quickly interject that, but yes, please continue. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to seek out internships. That's how I started to use this product after school. I interned with the state of Oregon doing ocean coastal management. It was in the government end. I had no idea what government was going to be like. I found that it wasn't right for me, but some folks just absolutely love it. But we were doing neat stuff like mapping the 22 estuaries along the ocean in Oregon. So I did that, and then I went into my next internship, and it was actually in East Lansing, and that's how I actually met Jason. So it's always important to think about your career, and then really to find mentors or professors that can help you along the way. Jason's helped me kind of grow as a person and grow as a just really as an individual that's starting to work and how to do that. So always recommend that is to to look for internships.
Advice. Appreciate that.
Yeah, look for internships. Look what's out there. Email companies, ask friends, dads. There's all kinds of different ways you can wind up with something. But in to kind of do that in your field, which it really helps you build your resume. Gives you content and things to look back on that an employer can say, wow, this person is definitely interested in it. He's showing that what he's learned in the past will probably take on in the future here. And it's okay to also, I was working landscaping too and kind of doing it on the side too. But the quicker that you can get into your field and then start in that work, even if it's unpaid, it really bodes well and shows well. So
I think that's going to resonate very well with many of my students, because many of them are living that right now. Work and they tell me about it and school and life. Excellent, thank you. That's awesome advice. I appreciate you talking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take this a little step further here. We'll stay in the Business Analyst web app. And here we want to do the same type of mapping, but we want to really dial it in and really look for locations where there's multiple criteria going on. So let's build a statement, or let's build a workflow here. So first, let's just do some simple things. Let's focus on population. We can come through here. Maybe we'll do 2025 population. So where's the population growing? So we'll click this. This is something that we want to analyze. Next, maybe if we're in the sports marketing world, we're looking for a certain type of income. So maybe we're looking for disposable income. So folks that have money to spend, and they're probably going to spend it on entertainment. And then sometimes that entertainment value is you going to a hockey game or going to a football game, where that's just if you do that during a day, you might spend $500 by the time it's done for parking and food and all that good stuff. So here, maybe we'll say we'll find areas of disposable income of, let's see, let's just do average disposable income. Let me go find that here. And actually, I will even search for it. See what disposable. See if I can work my typing skills here. So disposable income, and we're back here. We'll just go median disposable income. So there's different flavors of that, like average and median. We won't get too far into that. And then we'll come back here, and then we want to do a keyword search for hockey again. So let's see, we're going to go and we're going to find, again, folks that are watching television on hockey. We could find consumer spending data to say who's actually buying the most on hockey equipment or something like that. And that's also by block group, by county, by zip code. So what I've just done here is I've created this statement. If you've ever worked with databases, excuse me, behind the scenes here, what's happening is called a SQL query language, or SQL statement, kind of on the nerdy side. So there's all these if and buts, like if if a block group is between 5 and 10, then you'd have to write out a statement, and then it would just be laborious and too much. So here we deal with sliders, which is really cool. So part of my job was say, how can we make this easy and usable, that somebody just says, I'm going to add variables, and then let's go find out where these locations are within these ranges. So let's take a step take a step here. Let's go into the Lansing area. Actually, let's go down into north of Ann Arbor, into the Brighton area where Cleary is, kind of near where I grew up here. And so let's say, where are the highest populated areas? And as you can see on screen here, the lower populated areas are kind of disappearing, which is pretty cool. But then let's also look for a median house or a median disposable income. So we're looking for folks that have lots of money to spend. So that kind of bell curve goes up and down, I guess up in the middle and then down on each side of the histogram here. So you can say, well, I'm looking for populated areas between 3,500 and 11,000. And then I'm going to look for areas of median household income of $53,000 and more. And then I'm really kind of want to dial in and find out where are the areas where you're most apt to follow hockey. So if we, let's see, kind of come into this area, we're in Milford, in Heartland. This is actually where I grew up, in Heartland. And if I learn a little bit more about this, you can create reports, you can come back to create infographics. But as you can see, these are areas that I probably would want to market to. I can partner with the US Postal Service to send out mailers to say, hey, we've got a new business out, or we've got a new product, or partner with multimedia companies to partner with apps, so that in your phone and Instagram or something like that, it pops up. There, all of a sudden there's a hockey ad, and it's just like, oh wow. So this is kind of how marketers work with the software to understand more about demographics in an area.
Not to distract too much, but a thought that just came into my head is you could actually overlay your company sales as another layer on this, and compare if you have higher sales in a particular market and try and explain why. I don't mean to derail it. Yeah, you can pull in your own data too. So that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So and we have ways to do that. Let's see, where would I do it here? I would go here, create a custom variable.
Okay.
So
you could just pull in your own companies.
Yeah, I could bring in, if I have data in an Excel spreadsheet or a CRM or point of sale, sales by zip code, I can load that in, and then one of those variables, or one of the attributes that I could be looking at is like sales per zip code, where I could say, where have I done best over the last year? And that's just something that I want to bring in. So absolutely. And that's where it's most powerful too, is when you're bringing in your own contents data, or your own organization's content. So that was a little bit about creating simple maps with data, creating a little bit more sophisticated maps with data. And then what I thought I would do, Jason, is take it a little bit further. This what we have here is something called ArcGIS Pro. So it's our desktop application. It's an application that you would install locally on your machine. It could be installed on a Mac or a PC. And this is all about using, it's very similar to what I was just showing, but this is when you want to expand what you're doing. You want to set up models, you want to set up repeatable processes. You might have, instead of 20 locations, you might have 20,000 locations. Like, create me a 7-minute drive time around 14,000 subway locations or something like that. And then from there,
that's cool.
Yeah, so from there, benchmark those, figure out who's doing better, who's doing worse, what can we go and kind of do further analysis with. So here's one example where companies are creating trade areas. Like I mentioned, we work with Meijer, we work with large grocery store chains. Though they're building trade areas that are based on different demographic factors, and then they want to reach, when they reach a certain limit of some criteria, that's where they know that this particular facility that we're going to put in is probably going to do well because it's meeting a certain criteria. And we have ways to kind of automate that work. One of the ways that I'll show here is we have we have a series of tools. So these are kind of toolboxes that as you can see over here. And if I open one of these out, or open one of these up here, we'll open one up called threshold drive times. So creating a drive time, you can actually model how far a customer will travel to get to your store, either to the store or away from the store. And it's actually really cool. We have these kind of advanced parameters. So to and from the store, or we can say based on the time of day, based on historical or live traffic, what is this drive time boundary going to look like on April 3rd at 5 o'clock in the afternoon? Or you might want to say, what's it going to look like at Monday morning at midnight or something like that? So you can clearly see the difference in how traffic patterns.
That's amazing. It's that powerful, rather than just do like an average, speed limit, that it actually can take in some real time and historical data to influence the travel time. That's very cool. That's
Yep,
new to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
So it kind of takes, and it's really the same thing if you go to Google and then you say,
Right.
okay, is this restaurant open? And you can kind of see it's it's going to be very busy at this time, and so it's using cell phone data like that, mobility data that they bring in, and then they model and say this is most likely going to be this type of traffic at this time. Or you can literally connect into live traffic and run analysis like that.
Just real briefly, I'm so glad you mentioned cell phone data, because that was just a whole other topic we discussed with what you're actually agreeing to with your device when you sign up for it. But I'm not going to go there. I'll let you focus on this. But I so appreciate, because that ties into another module where we talked about that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So if you go into, I don't know, like a McDonald's or some type of restaurant, you could be using their app, and I believe that there's information in the app that's, if you leave, then it's kind of, it can track your cell phone for 10 minutes. It doesn't actually track your personal information. It aggregates it, but then they can use that to then figure out, okay, this person went to this particular restaurant, then they went here, then they went there, and then they can start to model the behavior of where you're going, and then at that point figure out. Sorry, my little guy is in the background too, making noise. Sorry,
I just had my big guy.
I thought it was gonna be your son, but
my son just did too.
But they can they can create dynamic trade areas, or just understand the areas that you might be going around that area, and then kind of figure out products from there. So let's go really quickly here. What I want to do is say that in San Francisco here, I have 2 bank locations, and I'm looking to offer maybe Roth IRAs or something where certain types of individuals are most likely going to purchase that. And then I want to find out how far or how big of an area do I have to reach before it stops growing. Where I might say if it's over 15 minutes, then that's, we're not going to capture those folks because these folks are on scooters or they're walking or something like that. So what we can do is open up a threshold variable, or open up a data browser to find a threshold variable. So here, very simply, I can come in, we have population that's broken down into generations. So I can come in and say, where are all the baby boomers at? Where are all the Generation Z, millennials? We actually break those down into categories. So here, for millennials, I can say, how far do I have to travel until I reach, let's say, 50,000 millennials? So it's going to simulate driving in a car in all directions, either to or from the location, and then it's going to this trade area is going to stop growing when I reach that many millennials. So here you can see the area of coverage is much different from the northern location to the southern location. This could be for any industry. Here it's banks. This could be if I'm opening up a gym. If I'm opening up a vaccination clinic, like how far do I have to go before I reach a certain amount of vulnerable population? And here, this is simply millennial population, a certain number of them. And I can come over, we can look at the attribute table and say that it's cut off at 50,000 and the closest it's could. And so for the northern store here, you have to go 5.5 minutes to reach that population. In the southern store, you have to go over 6 minutes. And so these are really dense urban areas. If I move this out into rural California or rural Michigan and compared it to San Francisco, you might actually have to go out 30 minutes or 40 minutes to reach that same amount of people. So
Yeah, that's a really good point with density, right?
yeah, so companies use this to if they're a burger restaurant or something like that, or they say, okay, well, we have our stores all over an urban area or a metro area, um, and then they can break down, put data values into their or attribute data into their attribute values into their data, and say, um, for a number one, it's an urban area, create maybe a 7-minute drive time. If it's a number two, it's a rural area, create a 30-minute drive time, and then compare the demographics from there. So, um, and so they're not all created equal. So
Very cool.
yeah, that's a little bit about trade areas. Yeah, what do you think, Jason? I mean, there's so many things you can do. Another thing that I was going to think about was to kind of show how to think about territories or something like that. Do we have time for that, or are we running a little long?
Yeah. Let's take a couple minutes and look at it. I think this has been amazing just to introduce the students, even myself, to some of these newer tools. And so if you
Yeah,
want to show something about trade analysis, trade areas, that'd be great. And then I
yeah,
think we'll wrap it up, because I could tell that what I'm hoping is this just piques their interest. It shows the power of a lot of the big data that we've talked about. But when students have thought about big data, it's big data. And it's this, okay, yeah, we've got these tools and AI and machine learning that works with it. But you brought it down to a very visualization in a software tool where companies can manipulate this data and use it. And so I think it's just going to be extremely eye-opening for them. And I wouldn't doubt if many of them don't start pursuing learning much more about this area of GIS and data.
yeah. Cool. And I can't remember. I didn't know if like we were on screen here, if the screen is being recorded and you couldn't see our faces the whole time. I don't think you'd want to see my face a lot, but
I think
but
we're actually, well, I'll have to go back and play it. I think we can see our faces the whole time.
okay, good. We don't need double our faces though, so I'll bring us back over here. So
Okay.
yeah, and a really good resource to look into our software and how to learn that or learn about that is learn.arcgis.com. There's all kinds of really neat lessons out there that you can go, and there's
Yes.
discovery paths on really just how to use our software, and a lot of them are free. Then you can kind of get involved there.
Well, even just to learn a basic working knowledge when you go into a job interview, to not just say, yeah, I know marketing, but I'm familiar with some of the tools and how the industry is using it. And a lot of companies will offer training too. Don't feel like you necessarily have to learn all this before you get hired, but just even being aware of it is going to make you stand out, perhaps, above
Yeah,
another candidate. So
yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, so I guess the last thing that we can touch on is that we have a way to build and manage territories, and that's a geographic problem. So we have software that is optimized to deal with that, or to rebalance congressional districts, which is going on right now, and the whole kind of uh, gerrymandering world of trying to have equal representation in each congressional district in Michigan or anywhere. So it could be for any industry, like the government, or it could be for um, divvying up sales boundaries or cable districts, or anything you can think of that you have an area where you want an equal amount of something for sales folks or potential leads. You can do that. So that's what this is kind of looking at here, is that I think I've also based this on census block groups, which is a collection of um, homes. I can't remember if it's 2,500 people per block group, but they're trying to make them an equal amount, but they can be different sizes. So I have 5 territories here, and they all look about the same size geographically. But if you come in and you take a look at these, if I open up what we have here to create a chart, you can see that these are based on households And I have kind of a bell curve going on here. What this is telling me is that they're not actually equal at all. So I'm looking at the attributes, the areas in this kind of pink fuchsia area here. There's 131,000 people or households here. And then if I look at territory 4, 66,000, and then 42,000. So there's the whole idea to create a territory plan within an organization is to have areas that are equally incentivized so that you can benchmark those and give sales folks or managers an equal opportunity to do their business during that year, or and then reevaluate and then say, hey, what's wrong? What's going on here? Are there more accounts in one area or not? So I guess I'll open that chart back up just to kind of do this on the fly. And then what I can do is say, we have a command or a button here or a feature that says balance variables. So this opens up a little dialogue here, and I can add several types of variables, and then I can control the importance of one over another. So I might have households, I might have people that are watching hockey, I might have income. I have all these factors, and I kind of put it into this big cauldron of soup. And the software is going to figure out, based on the weights that I give it, one more important than the other, how can I redistribute these territories to have an equal amount of 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 geographies or attributes in each one of these. Here I only have one variable, so I'm going to say I'm going to run this and say we want 100% total households to be our factor in how we redistribute these equally. But what I will do then is come back up to solve. I'll say I want 5 territories, and they're going to be hopefully equally balanced. I could come in here, different tools to be aware of. I can set distances, so a territory shouldn't go out 30 minutes drive time because my trucks can't go out that far. I can set barriers here where I might say, well, this area is a competitor area, stay out of there, or there's a bridge out so you can't cross it. So there's anything you can think of, you can customize it, which is cool.
That's so neat.
Yeah, and then so let me run this. Hopefully it's going to redistribute those 5 territories, and it's going to right there. So it's an equal amount of households. Each household has about 75,000 now. And what it's done is it's done a series of mathematical computations that's behind the scenes, that all these statistics that are happening, kind of arguing over geographies to figure out how can I redistribute this population. And so that would be a way then to say, let's create a report out of this. I've got a report command here. Oh, that was chart again, but I would create my report. There's different types of reports that we have, like a summary or a compare, or if I wanted to do a before and an after to see, if I were to bring in my territories from 2018 because Bob worked on them, but he's no longer there, load them in and then redistribute them and then make them, obviously much statistically better. How would I compare the two to see if they're better, and how would I relay that to people that make decisions? And that's what creating a territory.
That is a very powerful tool there. That's incredible.
Yeah. So that's kind of a long tour of things that I work on every day in the industry that I work in. And yeah, hopefully we learned something here.
I even learned something. So I deeply appreciate your time with us. This is amazing. And appreciate you taking the time out of the day for Cleary students here.
Yeah. Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
That was excellent. And now that I'll press pause here and end the recording, but then I get to talk to them about it, and hopefully they're all very enthused to pursue this further. And I think one thing in college, like, you learn about a lot of things, but you don't actually see the real world application. And just many of the concepts we talked about all semester, you just showed them all and tied them all together in this application and in your presentation. So I appreciate it. I know my students do too.
Yeah. I would say some classes, I just kind of just cruised, but it's like once you really find somebody that you connect with, a professor, or once you find something that you're really interested in, that's it's a path forward, you really get into it, and then you really kind of understand how much time you have left in school, and then really you kind of get out what you put into it. So take advantage of those office hours. Take advantage of what the professor has for just in the industry, folks that they might know, stories. Just information is there, and then it is what you make of it, I guess.
Yes, and I always encourage my students to find me on LinkedIn and stay in touch, and and it's continuous learning too, because even after college, you and I mean, I've been out, we've worked together. Well, it's probably going to come up on 20 years here pretty soon.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we continue to learn every day. So
Yeah.
it never stops.
And if you don't, folks from Cleary College will come and take your job, I guess. So.
Oh, Clear University now, Kyle.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's sorry. That's
a local reference.
I guess how old I am. When I was younger, I was living in the
always,
area.
Yeah, it was always Cleary College. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was always, for the longest time, it was always Cleary College.
Yeah, well, you can edit that out. So Cleary University.
No, everyone, 50% of the people I run into still call it Cleary College. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, we hire folks in from similar type of institutions all the time. So, and they're maybe more business focused, and that we want to be in these type of schools because we need smart people that want to do it. So,
well, I think that gives me a good topic for my next lecture then, which will be to dive in a bit deeper into just GIS itself and the industry and show what some of those opportunities are. So Kyle, thank you. It was amazing. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. So good luck with your courses, and
thanks.
Yeah. All right.